Hey, hey, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's doing well today. Today what we're going to do is do the top three tips when it comes for new vegans. Okay. Um, the reason I'm going to do this is because I know that a lot of people are, they're trying to transition to live more of a vegan lifestyle, and and it can be hard, especially with a lot of information that's out there. It can be pretty difficult because um I know when I first went vegan it was difficult for me, but the benefits was that there wasn't a lot of distraction like there is now. Like, it's kind of good and kind of bad because for me it was one of those things where I really didn't have to I didn't get distracted by too many things. I had the chance to check out my hold on. I had a chance to check out my I don't know, my camera. Okay. I had a chance to check out my benefits. Well, not benefits, but really what I'm trying to say. I'm seeing having problems with the Zoom, it looks like. I don't know. It's like, okay, now it's working. All right. What I was saying is that the some of the issues was that with me when I first went vegan was pretty much basically just that I didn't know where to get protein from. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what was vegan, what wasn't. I mean, I had an idea, but I made a lot of mistakes in the grocery stores when I was buying certain types of foods. And then also, lastly, I didn't know where to get my nutrients. Okay. Like, I didn't understand micronutrients and fiber until I really dived deep. So, this is why I'm doing this video on the three top tips for new vegans so you can have an idea of what to do. Okay. Because I've been vegan for over 11 years. I'm slowly moving up to about like 12 years pretty soon, being plant-based vegan. And the whole reason I did it was mostly just because of animals. Like, I saw Gary Roski, not his video, but his speech. It's called The Best Speech Ever. I was in college a long time ago. I was doing a public speaking class, and we were learning about persuasive speaking. You know what I'm saying? And from that class, when he did it, what changed my views on animals was a lot of the things that I saw. I saw a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. He obviously showed the slaughterhouse videos, but he also talked about like medical and health reasons as well, why to transition and how it's good for the planet. And truthfully, it's something that I really didn't never heard of before in my life. I never looked at animals in that particular way. I just looked at them as food, as byproducts. And I've actually thought some of the things that happens to animals. I mean, obviously, I knew they get killed. Obviously, I knew that they go to a slaughterhouse, right? Like, I knew that part, but I didn't understand like all the abuse that these animals go through. And even till this day, seeing how some people do react when it comes towards vegans or transitioning to a plant-based diet, it's kind of sad because a lot of people are kind of getting preconditioned, saying that it's okay for these animals to go through, to get abused. And the problem about that is that I know that we live in a world where a lot of people really love animals. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people really do, but it's easy to kind of desensitize ourselves and put a blind's eye on what's going on because we don't want to feel that we're actually contributing to that. So, and the marketing industry and in the marketing industry, when it comes to animal byproducts, I mean, they do a good job because they do things like, cage free and grass fed and stuff like that. And people feel that, oh, if I transition to this, I'm doing a better job for these animals. But in all reality, like, we kind of want to not hear what really goes on. As long as it says on the label, we kind of want to go with it and just run with it and feel happy in our hearts and continue to eat like animal byproducts. But we don't understand the reality that really goes on when it comes to just a basic label. Like, anyone could put a label on something and make claims, and it's like they say, like if it's cage free, I mean, it doesn't mean that the animals have a big yard to run from. Like they're only allowed the the I can actually pull it up. They're only allowed to just have a place where the animals can go outside and they could still be crunched up in that barn, or in that feeding area, or what I like to call a CAFO. You know what I'm saying? That's why I like using that terminology, the CAFOs. That's all they're allowed to do. So certain animals doesn't really need to be there. So, for example, and I'll go ahead and repeat that. Like, cage free does mean that animal was not raised in the cage, right? But it may have been raised in closed quarters. Chickens that are cage free are often kept in an 8 by 8 space in a large shelter. The USDA does aim to verify this claim on food products like eggs, but they rarely inspect the facilities that house chickens to confirm the conditions. You know what I'm saying? So even if it's cage free, like I just said, it doesn't mean that the conditions of where they're living at is great. And then some people might say, well, I'll get mine locally grown, because there's a lot of terminology out there, right? And if you say, like, if I get mine locally grown, you know, here's the thing: there's no real standard definition for this claim on foods as well. Okay, local could mean 5 miles away or all the way up to 150 miles away, based on the producer's definition of the term locally grown. One would think that means that animals were loose in a large space as they grew. And that's what we kind of put into our minds, right? We kind of put that into our minds because we love chicken. We want to eat the animals, right? We love our meat. We're trying to get these gains, right? But we don't want to really go too deep into it, because when we do, you start learning the truth. But see, the problem is that, but there are, going back to this, but there are no standards as to the size or the condition of the outdoor space that the animals used for foods are provided. Especially with beef, the term free range means the animal was given access to some type of outdoor space for 120 days out of each year of its life. So that's not even a lot. You know what I'm saying? If you kind of think about it. And cows can live up to, I believe they can live up to like 20 years. And when it comes to farm raised cows, they only live up to like 5 to 8 years, somewhere around those lines. Okay. Um, and then we have a lot of other things that can define like animals' living conditions. For example, pasture raised, right? The animal was raised for some portion of its life on a pasture or had access to one, right? The label pasture raised does not mean that the animal lived in a grassy field and lived prior to being processed for consumption, and it's not verified or controlled by the USDA. See what I'm saying? So we like to make these claims, but we don't want to do the research. You know what I'm saying? And then when vegans kind of come out with some truth, you have that opposition that don't want to hear it. And it's, I always say, there's a reason why you don't. I mean, obviously you want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously you want to feel like you're doing the right things for the right reasons. I think everyone does, right? But there's just a fine line when it comes to, should I continue to do this and condone to this type of problem? If this is really happening to animals. And I always say, like, best thing to do is just go to an animal sanctuary. You know what I'm saying? If you go to an animal sanctuary and you see some of these rescued animals, like, it definitely going to plant a seed in your mind, because you're going to see how animals really react. Especially some animal sanctuaries has animals that has been abused, and you can really see it right there. Like, you don't have to go straight to the fire of the belly of hell and go straight to an abattoir or a slaughterhouse and see what happens there. But I definitely agree. If you do, you probably won't eat meat again, because it's a lot different than seeing something on TV or on your phone through a screen versus when you're actually there. You know, It's like people who play like Call of Duty. It's a lot different when you're actually in war, and I can tell you that by firsthand. You know, I was in the military for 8 years. And I deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 and 4. It's a lot different than Call of Duty. It's not fun. You know what I'm saying? It's not fun, and you don't have respawn, and you only have one life, and anything can happen, and you're not just sitting there cool thinking like, yeah, like we got this. Like the last thing on your mind is that you're just like, I just need to survive this shit and go fuck home. That's the only thing you're literally thinking about. You know, you just want to do what you need to do, get out and go home. And it's very similar when you go to like a slaughterhouse. I can only imagine. I've been to one, and it's not pretty. You know what I'm saying? You see, like, especially if you see the trucks, all the trucks coming into the slaughterhouse, it's like it feels like it's every 5 minutes you see a truckload filled with animals. You know what I'm saying? And you could tell the animals are scared as hell. You know what I mean? They're super scared. Like they're defecating on themselves. They're peeing on themselves. Like you don't see a truck with a bunch of happy animals like just chilling. You know, these animals are nasty. They're dirty, and like I said, they're defecating and urinating on themselves. And you can see it on their hide, on their fur, like everything. It's crazy, you know, because they know what's happening. They can literally smell the fear. You know what I mean? But yeah, with that said, I don't want to get too deep on that. And you know, I'm just telling you why I went vegan, because for me it was an easy change. Like it had nothing to do with like I love meat so much and stuff like that. I mean, once I saw the violence and I saw a lot of pain and suffering, I was like, I mean, can it hurt me to live a plant based lifestyle? Like, is it really going to be that difficult, that much of a change in my life? You know what I'm saying? Um, but with that said, hold on real quick. I have to do something really fast. All right, sorry about that. All right, so with that said, here's the 3 tips when it comes to as a new vegan. So obviously, when you're transitioning to a vegan diet, one mistake that you don't want to do is just stop eating meat 100%, right? And then just eating a bunch of vegetables and thinking that that's all you need to do. Because you have to remember, when it comes to transitioning to any new diet, not just a vegan diet, any new diet, you have to realize, how am I going to replace certain nutrients that's actually vital for me? And one of the nutrients that I like to point out is going to be the macronutrients, okay? And especially some of the things that you learned, right? Some of the stuff that you learned when it comes to, I like to say, the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet, right? Some of the things that you learn from that diet isn't going to apply to a vegan diet. It's just not. Okay. It won't apply to a vegan diet. It's not going to apply to a plant-based diet, whatever you want to call it. Whole foods, plant-based, vegan lifestyle. You know, I think y'all understand what I'm saying, right? But it's not going to apply because a lot of things are different. So some of the things that you learn from school, especially when it comes to standard American diet, is that you need to eat animal byproducts to get protein. This is like poultry, eggs, beef, right, and fish. And then everything else like dairy and cheese is good for your calcium and your bones. Uh, you know, you could get a lot of iron from your meat. You know, vegetables and fruits are good for you. They just, you know, you get some vitamins and minerals from that, and then you know you have your oils and your nuts and seeds for your fats, right? But if we take it in the pyramid system, you know, like the basic foods pyramid, like you can see like how it's kind of partitioned out. And when it comes to like fruits and vegetables, it's required a high serving amount, but most people don't get those servings because we're so obsessed about protein intake that we think that when it comes to fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, we don't have to really consume that much as long as we're getting a little bit in there. And I know some people actually think that lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and pickles on a burger is a lot of vegetables. You know, believe it or not, people actually believe that, because I used to believe that even when I was eating like McDonald's and crap. Like I used to think this too, like, oh, there's vegetables there, or that one little side vegetable of like you get like you're building your plate and you put like that one scoop of string beans. We think that's like a lot of vegetables for us. Like, oh, that's filled with vitamins and minerals. Not understanding that string beans is good, but it's not like the best. It's not the best vegetable out there. That has like tons of vitamins and minerals. Or if we get that small house salad because we're trying to be a little bit more healthier with our diet. So, I saw on Instagram influencer said that, have salad before you eat your big meal. You get that small little ass salad that remains that small little house salad, right? Thinking like, oh yeah, I'm getting tons of my vitamins and minerals. Like this is super healthy. I'm getting tons of fiber from that. And truthfully, iceberg lettuce it's not the best vegetable out there. It's good for you, but it's not the best vegetable. Like it has so little amounts of vitamins and minerals. And again, a few chops of tomatoes, onions, some carrots, like that ain't shit when it comes to vitamins and minerals. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying like you can't take that same ideology because this is where ex-vegans fail. This is where this is why people who consumes meat and then shit on vegans, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about because they never even took a nutritional course to learn about a plant-based diet. They're so hyper focused on carnivore diet, animal-based diets, and just the regular meat-based, just a regular standard American diet that they didn't even take the time to actually learn about the nutrient density that really comes into plants. You know what I'm saying? Because even if someone who's ex-vegan was trying to teach vegans, I would tell them don't do it because why would you listen to someone who actually failed the diet? Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like I would focus and follow people that actually is living the lifestyle, or they're actually like really certified in plant-based nutrition. I mean, they don't have to be vegan, but they understand the logic. Because I say this myself all the time. Like if I was consuming meat, if I ever decided to go back to consuming meat, I mean, I wouldn't even if I took ethics out of my mind and I was like, you know what, I want to eat meat, right? I would still not do any carnivore or keto or animal-based diet. It would be more holistic, It'd be 20% animal-based and the rest still plant-based because the knowledge is so ingrained in my mind and there's so much that I learned living a plant-based lifestyle. It's too hard to ignore that. Like it's too hard. And I feel when ex-vegans do this, it's because they haven't educated themselves enough to learn about plant-based foods. Okay. And this is some of the mistakes that I've even done myself, when I first went vegan. I was just replacing everything that I knew. And I was eating tons of string beans. I was eating tons of collards from a can, because I was in college when I first went vegan. So, well, not first went vegan, when I was transitioning, because I went pescatarian first. And then after that, I went fully plant-based, like vegan. But I was still doing I was just like increasing the intake of string beans. I could tell you, man, I had so many cans of string beans. It was ridiculous. I was like eating like the canned collards until I realized the ones that I was getting had pork in it. So like I didn't know they use like pig fat in that thing. So I ended up stop doing that and just increasing the spinach intake from cans. I was doing a lot of rice, a lot of beans. And the thing is this, even though I went pescatarian, I was still consuming like tilapia and salmon, and if y'all could say, oh, tilapia is shit, like trust me, I'm talking about my history, right? So it's like, but what happened was like I was still doing that for protein, and even when I looked at vegan, like they had like mock meats, right? The only mock meat back then was only like Tofurky deli slices, and that thing was like $7 just for like a box of deli slices, which is nothing. It's literally nothing. So it wasn't even worth buying that. And I didn't even know about tofu. I didn't even know where you can get tofu from. I didn't know where you could find it. So with that said, I was doing a lot of like fish with everything else whole foods plant based. And listen to this. I mean, even though I was doing that, and I was still doing junk food. Like I was still eating like Oreos. 'Cause I like my Oreos. I would have like 2 or maybe 6 Oreos per night. Be honest with you. Um, I was still doing certain things, but again, I was coming from a standard American diet lifestyle, and I was just applying whatever I knew. I still lost a lot of weight, believe it or not. I went from 225 all the way down to like 160, right? And when that happened, like I was ripped, I was shredded. I definitely lost some muscle, but I wasn't counting nothing. I wasn't using my Fitness Pal. I was a personal trainer at the time, but I wasn't a certified nutritionist at the time. I wasn't doing bodybuilding at the time. I wasn't using my Fitness Pal and keeping track of my macros at the time. I was just like you and like you, a regular person, you know, just eating, trying to figure this shit out, right? So I say the mistake that you don't want to do is do that because listen to this, even though like I got ripped doing it, I was still exercising, right? Now, but I did lose muscle because I dropped all the way down to 160. I was very, very lean. You know what I mean? So if you want to prevent muscle loss, what you want to do is try find some foods, especially now because it's so much easier to do it now. Find foods that can replace the things you already eat now. Because remember, when I first went vegan, there was no mock meats, man. Like everyone's like shitting on processed foods and stuff. I'm like, man, like it's not as bad as you think. That's number one. And number two, they're just alternatives. That's all it is. It's not for everybody. It's for people who's really trying to transition and they want it. They're putting in that puzzle piece to make it easier. Because again, if you're coming from a standard American diet to a plant-based diet, like you're not going to know that tofu, tempeh, and seitan are the top food choices. You're not going to understand that those top three protein sources are like the healthiest foods you can get on a plant-based diet, and they're not as processed and bad that you really think when you start doing real research and really looking into it. Like these three top foods been around for a very long time. They're not new. They've been around since like the sixth dynasty when like during China. I can actually bring up some of the data here. Um, Let me see. So come up with some so I can give you like exact facts, not just like things I kind of remember because it is a little blurry. But let me find it. I know I have it somewhere here. Um, yeah. So for example, it's been around since 1100 BC. All right, with soybeans and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's how long it's been around. And then in the US, like soybean, like tofu and stuff kind of came around near, uh, and I'm just trying to go through this really fast. I believe it came around near like the 50s or 70s, somewhere around the 50s through the 1850, 1870s. That's when it kind of was like a little bit more introduced. But that's all I can really say, all right, for now. But it's been around for a long time. And what we don't understand is that, and yeah, some people are like, wow, like that's crazy. Yeah, it's some people don't understand it's been around for such a long time. But just because now we have social media, we have Google, we have AI, you see it now like pushed out locally in a lot of public grocery stores. We're taking a lot of old data and stuff and trying to demonize some of these foods. Use those foods, and then you have the meat alternatives as well, like Gardein, field roast, daring, tofurkey, like Big Mountain. Like they all make different types of mock meats. Some of them are healthier than others. Like I would pick daring over Gardein. You know, I would put Gardein over Beyond and Impossible. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just different processing methods, and like again, not like when people look at some of these food items, and especially if they're like when I make a video and someone who's not familiarized with with vegan foods, and they're just hearing what other people say who's not even vegan, right? Like I would believe a vegan than someone who's not vegan. You know what I mean? Like who never lived the lifestyle, which is interesting. It's interesting that we pay attention to people who's not even qualified in the field, so and we believe them. You know what I mean? But with that said, I would listen to someone who actually lives the lifestyle to hear what they have to say, because obviously they're going to come from a stronger place since they actually live it, and they're going to literally tell you like that. Just like there's a paradigm for a lot of things, they're going to tell you the paradigm for a vegan, and that's what I'm telling you here. It's like, yeah, Beyond Impossible is probably like the most highly processed foods. I mean, they're not crazy horrible as people think, but they are like the highest process. But then if you kind of start going down, I would say like Gardein is like in the middle, because certain food items that they have are highly processed, some of them aren't. Yeah. And then you have like Daring, which is not highly processed. You have Field Roast, which isn't highly processed, and you also have like Big Mountain, which is not highly processed as well. So these are minimally processed foods. And just because it's processed doesn't mean it's bad, because there's a lot of things that we eat and we consume that is processed. You know, I mean, you could think about coffee. Coffee is processed. Tea is processed. When we consume like cereals are processed. You know what I'm saying? They're not that bad as what people try to make it seem, but it's not. But cereals are good depending on which ones you get, obviously. And again, that there's a spectrum from that. Like if you're eating like Fruity Pebbles, obviously that's like sugar in a box, right? Or my thing, that's like crack in a box, right? But with colors. But if you want to get something that's healthier, maybe go to Whole Foods and they have the organic raisin brand. That might be a little bit better. Or if we want to go even healthier, get the brown rice crisps. You know what I'm saying? That has a little bit more fiber in it. Things like that. There it's just certain foods that's out there. And if you want to get any healthier, there's oatmeal. You know what I mean? So it's always a spectrum, and it's all about moderation as well. Um, so let's go. So that's pretty much it. So when it comes to the protein, just do that, and don't beat yourself up. Even if you do the Beyond, even if you do Gardein and stuff like that, like try them out, use them, use and add them to your primary dish. Like if you're going to go ahead and continue to eat rice and beans and vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, you can add those as your protein source until you start learning how to make better recipes. Because that's the part where a lot of people mess up as well. They don't know how to cook tofu. People be like, "Oh, I ate tofu and it was disgusting," and I'm like, "How is tofu disgusting?" I mean, I don't even get that, because I'm like, tofu has no taste, and whatever flavors you add to it is exactly how it's going to taste. You know what I'm saying? It's a very versatile item. You can add salt, reduce salt, make it sweet, make it not sweet. You can add to smoothies. You can make like pretty much almost anything out of it. So it's one of those things where it's very versatile. Um, so like I would say only reason to stay away from it is mostly just because you're allergic to those foods. You know what I'm saying? If you're allergic to soy. Now the next tip is definitely going to be, and before I go further, let me see if there's any questions. Let me see. I'm going to go through Instagram first. Let's see. Yeah, some people are just stating that they did the same thing I did in the past and they lost a lot of weight, but then once they started learning more about protein, then they started to regain the weight, and that's what happened to me. Yeah, even someone said it's actually Holistic Holly. She said like French fries are vegetables, and that's why I used to think that shit too, man. Yeah, like yeah, it's a vegetable, like it's good enough, because we want to simplify food so badly. Um, and then someone else saw, yeah, they're just talking about the cereals, but then they realized what the other stuff I was adding on. And then let me just see what YouTube. Yeah, people just saying like, yeah, they used to eat a lot of rice as well. And one guy stated that Yeah, one person stated like when it comes to it's actually Fahim Muhammad. He actually stated like I'm just showing his comment. He just stated that it's pretty much just easier now because you've got the information out there, and there's a lot of vegan chefs, which is true, yeah. But so a lot of these vegan chefs, I want to be very honest with you. And this is my take on it. Um, Nothing wrong with them because obviously their content is going to reach out to whoever is really interested in making those foods or can relate to those chefs. But I personally feel that there's a there's more people that falls into the category in the working class of America versus like the American housewife, you know what I'm saying, or house husband, whatever you want to call it, right? There's more people who actually works, and maybe it's just my thing because I live in the city, I live in Miami, but I know like there's not a lot of people in Miami who actually like cooks their foods. You know, a lot of people eat out, a lot of people take out foods like and the reason I'm saying that is because even how the apartment buildings are made, some of them don't even have kitchens, believe it or not. You know, like you're like, what? There's apartments with no kitchen? Yeah. There's apartments like literally with no like oven. You know, they have a microwave, but there's no oven in some of these things. And then some of them that do, like people don't use them. Like my apartment doesn't have a dining room. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I live in the 2 bedroom. I'm in Bay Harbor, and there's no dining room. You know what I'm saying? Because they built these apartments for people like they that don't eat. Like they eat out a lot. And that's where Miami's like kind of going down. And if you kind of think about it and see how many restaurants and cafes and stuff that's there, we have so many. It's really crazy. So it's one of those things where like a lot of people don't really cook. A lot of people go out. So when it comes to the chef stuff, and that's why I make my content a lot different than most like chefs because with me I focus on fast meal prep hacks like foods that's going to literally take 10 to 15 minutes to make because I know that the working man or the working woman who's actually going to meal prep, they're not going to make these gourmet meals. You know what I'm saying? Unless they have a particular lifestyle. Yeah. So, like I said, like with some of these chefs, like I like it because it does they do show and represent like the diversity of these foods and how delicious it can be. But the reality is a lot of it is food porn. You know, like that's what I like to say. It's like it's just masturbating the mind, like just looking at food because it's just one of those pleasures, those guilty pleasures that humans like. Food, sex, and money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so it's one of those human pleasures where it's like, oh wow, that looks amazing, because it only makes sense because some of these meals do take like at 40 minutes to an hour to make with these chefs. And it's like, do I really want to spend 40 minutes to 60 minutes creating that food item? Or would I just go to a restaurant, pay a little extra, and not even have to wait as long? And if I'm going to spend that much time, at least I'm in a nice venue where I can, either be alone or with a significant other. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the reality with some of the chefs. Not trying to point them out. I'm not trying to say they're bad to follow. Again, I really appreciate their work. I follow a lot of chefs myself, but I just feel for the working class, it's not real for those type of individuals unless you live a different life. Um, Now the next thing is when it comes to part 2 is talking about cooking is learning how to cook. I think that's going to play a big part as well. Learning how to cook, but in a particular way, because what we learn in a standard American diet is we just learn how to cook foods that is delicious, right? That's it. We're more focused on how good the food tastes, but we don't really understand like how to make delicious foods that are nutrient dense, like the combinations of those two together. And sometimes in the fitness world, we think that healthy foods has to be boring and bland, and only foods that's tasty. is bad. Like obviously it's not going to get you where you need to be. But I feel like trying to find that combination of both where foods are healthy, nutrient dense, as well as very tasty, this is where that balance is kind of gone. And I feel, and it's not even just vegan. I think it's with a lot of diets, you know. I mean, it's the only explanation why you see guys eating testicles and raw liver. You know, like I'm like, there's no way in hell like I'm eating something wrong. You know, like that. Like that's crazy. Just to get some health benefits, this is insane. Um, no way, Jose. If I'm going to eat something raw, it's going to be like fruits and veggies, man, and that's it. But I'm not eating no like bull testicles, man, and some raw liver and spleen and stuff like that. Nice, like that is insane. But again, I feel that's the missing piece, especially transitioning as a vegan, because we can get caught up with a lot of the, like if we go out to vegan restaurants, we get caught up with those type of foods because it tastes delicious, right? But is it healthy? And again, healthy is on a spectrum. It's probably healthier than going eating animal based foods and stuff like that, or eating at McDonald's, like going there or something like that. But is it healthy if you're trying to improve your lifestyle and your health overall? And this is where things can get tricky, because again, if you're doing a lot of burgers and fries, you went from Burger King to like a vegan joint, eating burgers and fries, like yeah, it's a little bit healthier, but it's not like a game changer in your health. Like you're not going to see significant changes in your diet. I won't even be surprised, or not your diet, but in your blood results. I won't even be surprised you don't see a significant change with your weight. Maybe you might lose 10, 15 pounds. But if you're still eating burger and fries is burger and fries. It's not the best food to be eating. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter if it's beef or a Beyond Burger. It's junk food at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to realize. So try and find foods that actually has that balance is going to play a significant role. That's why I created, and I'm not even. It's going to sound like I'm putting in the plug. I kind of am, but kind of not really, because because it's just the truth. Okay, but this is one of the reasons why I created Macro Mastery. Right, it has 70 plus fast meal prep hacks or foods in here that shows you that balance. And so, for example, if I showed you like, I want to just pull one up that's it's one of my top recipes. And I'm even creating new recipes. If you've been following me, I'm creating new ones as well, because I'm trying to create a new cookbook too. But for example, if you see like the this one right here, the vegan American Slam. So that's pretty much all it is like to sum it up, because it's supposed to mimic like the Denny's and the IHOP, whatever their breakfast slam breakfast is, right? It's supposed to mimic that. But I made like a vegan version. So with this, what I use in this recipe, in this one I use just egg, but you don't have to. You can use like tofu and create like a tofu scramble. But the ingredients that I use in this egg, right, is like bell peppers, kale, white onions, shiitake mushrooms, and garlic. And see, the thing is that in on a when I'm doing, if I was just a regular standard American diet, those fruits and vegetables that I mentioned, like the mushrooms, bell peppers, kale, I'll probably just use a little as like a garnish, just to bump up the flavor, right? But in reality, those foods are like super high in nutrients, and that we shouldn't just use them as garnishes. We should eat them as like actual food, like at like big portions. And the only way you're really going to get the nutrients from like the bell peppers, from the kale, from the white onions, from the mushrooms, from the garlic, you have to eat a lot of it. All right, because the thing is that fruits and vegetables are more majority low in calories, but they are nutrient dense. But to get the nutrients that you actually need, you have to eat a good amount of it. So, for example, like if I'm creating like a tofu scramble, I would use like 100 grams of bell pepper, which is pretty much a whole bell pepper, right? And I don't even have to go that hard on it. But the reason I would do a whole bell pepper is because a whole bell pepper is about 3 times higher in vitamin C than orange. You know what I'm saying? So and what I follow and what I teach my students is called a hypernourishment protocol. So we focus on hypernourishing the body, not just hitting the daily value requirements to get your vitamins and minerals, but going over the requirements, getting more than you actually need. Because when you really hypernourish the body, you eliminate and prevent any type of diseases and symptoms to be created in your body. Okay. And that's why I do it, especially for someone who's actually like you train, because even when you train, like those vitamins, those nutrients, all that stuff does get burnt through. It burns through your body, especially if you're active, you're highly active. So this is why I do this. And if you have like some type of chronic disease or something like that, I highly recommend like doing something like that, a hypernourishment protocol, like really hypernourishing your body. So that's what I do. So I get about like 100 grams of bell pepper, 1 cup of mushrooms, a half a cup or a whole cup of onions. When it comes to garlic, 5 to 10 garlic cloves, chop them up, get a lot of it in there, because that's when you're going to really find and feel the difference and the power of the fruits and veggies. All right. And the reason I'm saying fruits and veggies and salad, I'm using the same vegetables because bell pepper is a fruit. So it's like, you can do things like that. And then again, like if you want to do the just egg, you can do the just egg. The just egg is going to give it more of that real egg flavor, right? Or not flavor, but like that texture. But if you don't really care too much about texture and you're just like, I just want something that tastes similar to eggs, but you could do tofu. And again, you can make that into a tofu scramble, which I highly recommend to do over just eggs. And because the tofu is going to have way more protein in it, right? And versus a regular egg or the just egg is going to have the most amount of protein and it's going to taste good. And then I use like a field roast sausage, which I said like that's minimally processed. So you just chop that and cook that. And again, that sausage is about like 30 grams of protein, and it's a lot healthier than like the Beyond, and it's a lot better than any type of processed sausage that's out there, right? That's animal based. And then you could use olive oil, and then also I right here, because this is the old book, I use the smoked Gouda Follow Your Heart. But now I would say I would replace that for a better cheese, maybe a nut cheese from you can make your own nut cashew cheese, or you can use a nut cheese in Whole Foods. Like they have certain cashew cheese that you can buy there, or you can make your own. Because that will be a lot healthier than the smoked Gouda Follow Your Heart. Okay, so that's some of the changes I would have made, making this a high protein, very nutrient dense dish. Okay, and then the last thing is going to be, because I can tell you like what foods to get, and you can make some delicious foods with the cookbook. And if you're just wondering where you can get the cookbook, you can get it on my website at bodyhdfitness.com/shop, and you'll find it there. You can even find it on Amazon. Just type in Macro Mastery, and you can find it there. But if you go on Amazon, I highly recommend getting the digital version. The digital book is better than the physical book, unless you really want something physically in your hand. I get it. But the reason the digital book is better, because first it's cheaper, but second it's also interactive. So you have like the cooking videos in the book as well if you get the digital version. Now the last thing is going to be learning how to count the macros, right? Like how can I know where I'm getting my nutrients from? And see, I recommend people do this on an animal-based diet and a vegan diet, because as much nutrients that people think that they're getting from meat, like I always say, track it so you can actually see if you're hitting those nutrients that's being claimed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and see what nutrients you're actually missing, because you'll realize that even if you're on an animal-based diet, you're still going to be lacking important things like, number one, fiber. You're going to be missing that. And if people say that fiber is bad for you, I mean, this is insane. Like you're really asking for colon cancer for real. Like you're begging for it. You know what I'm saying? And like you're living in la la land. is like there's so much science behind fiber fiber is actually good for you. So you're missing a lot of fiber. Also, as well, there is vitamins and minerals that you can get from meat, but there's a lot more that you can get from plants. All right. And even if you use My Fitness Pal, keep track and see what you're getting and whatnot. If you want to even go a little bit deeper, like you want to know every little thing, get Chronometer and do that. And then you'll realize what vitamins and minerals you're actually missing. And this is on an animal-based diet or a vegan diet, right? So this is one of the reasons why I make this, because this is to show people, and I even put down the macros right in the book. But as you can see, when the reason I built this, and I don't go that deep in this book, but even if you plug it into My Fitness Pal, you'll see that you could pick like different dishes and plug them together. More likely, you're going to hit majority of your vitamins and minerals. That's the part I put in there without even letting anyone know. And maybe I should talk about it more. But that's how I create meal plans for my own students as well. Like I don't just make meals just for it to be delicious. And just making sure, oh, they're in a calorie deficit or surplus so they can be able to get to their fitness goals. I'm looking at other things like dietary fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, saturated fat, their monosaturated, polysaturated fats, because the cholesterol levels. I'm looking at everything because I want to make sure that when they're receiving these meals, they're not just getting to their goals, but they can actually feel the difference of how the food plays in their body. You know what I'm saying? And you're not just going to feel it just from weight loss. You're going to feel a big difference when the foods are actually like very healthy and hypernourished. You'll actually see it too. You'll start seeing a difference in your skin. You know, like my skin's nice and clean. You know, it's clean. It has a shine to it. Like there's a reason. You know, because it's the things that I eat. You know what I'm saying? So, and you are what you eat. So it's like if you make sure that these foods are hypernourished, like you're going to feel really good. So you have to use the app, either Chronometer or My Fitness Pal, and start tracking those foods. You know, find out what calories you actually need to survive or to lose weight, build muscle, whatever. But then focus on how you're building these meals to make sure they're hypernourishing your body. Okay. Um, but with that said, that's pretty much it. Let me see if there's any questions. Someone asked, what plants taste like meat? Okay, so this is by Jackson 79383. Okay, so I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. The only plant that I feel, and if you mean like when you say plants, like maybe like a mock meat or something like that, the mock meat that I feel that tastes exactly like meat, and they're not. I think they're kind of underrated. It's a UK brand. I know they started creating their products here in the US, but they are underrated, and you can only buy the products like from them directly. It's going to be Juicy Marble. All right, remember it. Find them on Instagram. It's called Juicy Marble. Um, they make stuff where it's so close to me, it's ridiculous, and it's made from plants. Um, it's called Juicy Marble. Yeah. I had like their sirloin, I believe. I think it was like a sirloin steak, and just the texture itself was so real. Like it was crazy how real it tasted. Now, am I a big fan of that? Yeah, I mean, I like it. You know, it tastes good. You know what I'm saying? But here's the only problem: Juicy Marble is expensive. It's an expensive piece of is an expensive piece of plant based meat. That's the only problem. But I can kind of tell why. You know, because the texture, everything, the flavor system is spot on. And then my second one is going to be from Greenhouse Foods, and it's Greenhouse as Haus Foods. Follow them on Instagram as well. I believe it's their pork tips. That one tastes more like meat than anything else. Out of all, because they're like a plant based meat deli company. So that would be my set. Like if I was ranking them, that would be second place. But only that one brand, like because they have different things. It's going to be the pork tips. That one tastes more like meat than anything else. All the other ones, it's like you know, it's good. Like they have chicken, bacon, chorizos, ground crumbles, all that stuff. But it it tastes good, and obviously it's supposed to mimic what like the vegan bacon is supposed to mimic the real bacon, but it doesn't taste or it doesn't taste like real bacon. It's similar. It has that that feel, but it's not the same. But again, like when I'm eating food, as long as it tastes good, I don't care if it's to resemble meat or not. As long as it tastes good, I don't care. And if it's vegan, that's even a plus. Let me see if there's any other questions. That's actually relevant to this. I think that's it. I think no, not a lot of questions today. So yeah. Well, if there's no more questions, I'll go ahead and let everyone go. Hopefully, this was a great class. And again, with the cookbook, you get on my website, link in bio, or just go to Amazon. You can get it there as well. And remember, get the digital version over the physical. Unless you really want the physical, you can get it. And then also as well, I do these classes every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, if you have questions, let me know and stay tuned for more. Peace.